Do you have elderberry on your property, or maybe you want elderberry? It's a great plant to have, but sometimes they're hard to find. But there's a really easy way. Once you have elderberry on your property, there's a really easy way to propagate and expand your elderberry crop. I'm going to show you a couple patches, and then I'm going to tell you how I've really expanded my patches of elderberry. I'm actually starting to sell some of the starts to some neighbors, making a little bit of money, not that much yet, but in years to come I'm going to be expanding and eventually have quite a bit of elderberry is my plan. So I'm going to show you one of our tallest plants right now. Now, a lot of people think that elderberry is a small plant, but it's really more of a shrub, or even it can be a small tree if you give it time. I've seen elderberries that are, 8 or 9 feet tall. This one right behind me is probably about 6 feet tall. Let's take a look at it. There's flowers that are about to bud out, and as soon as they do, I'm going to make a few nice things with the elderberry flowers, and then eventually in August we'll be harvesting the elderberries and drying them, hopefully. But let's check out this plant, and I'm going to show you a few more patches. Wowzers, that's a nice elderberry plant, huh? This is actually, there's a mother plant here and a bunch of pups that have grown out. This is a really easy plant to propagate, and once you identify it, I can almost guarantee you're not going to mistake it for something else. So here's one of my larger elderberry plants. I'm definitely going to get a nice harvest. You can see all these flowers. Let's take a nice aerial of this. So I have all of these flowers that are about to bud. I'm gonna get a decent harvest from this one little patch, but let's move on, and I'm gonna show you a few more. This probably seems like a strange place for an elderberry plant. A lot of people hear that they grow on the edges of streams, and they definitely do like that environment, but here's an elderberry bush that's literally in the middle of dry dirt here. And it's doing great, actually. Again, I'm going to transplant some of these. I have a more established area where I transplant my wild elderberries so that I can farm them a little bit better. But this is just a good example of a plant growing where you think maybe it's not supposed to. If you look over there, that's also an elderberry plant right there. And there's actually elderberries that are growing on this edge again. So these are in full sun 100%, and I found that actually they really thrive in full sun, not necessarily on an edge of a creek. So I'm walking to another patch. This is another nice elderberry patch here that I've let grow up here. I probably won't get any flowers this year from this elderberry. And again, I'm going to transplant some of these. But in years to come, I'm going to have a nice established elderberry plant here. And if you look, the bark of an elderberry plant, now this is eventually going to gray out and actually get bark on it like a tree. But these little nodes on it is really distinctive of elderberry. Like I said, once you learn this plant, it's pretty easy to identify. You can almost not mistake any other plant, in my opinion, for an elderberry. So we're gonna move further up on the pasture, and I'm gonna tell you my secret to growing lots of elderberry plants. As we're walking towards another patch, here's another patch that's starting to thrive here. We are walking up through our back pasture. The horses have eaten most of the grass here recently, but I do need to bush hog it because there's a lot of what most people would call weeds, and I would call most of these weeds, plants we don't want to be here. So I do need to bush hog it. But of course, I'm a beekeeper if you follow my videos, so some of these plants I appreciate, definitely. Lots of daisies. Okay, here we go. We're going through the pasture we are. Yeah, I need to bush hog this. So right behind me is yet another elderberry patch. There's probably a dozen or more upstarts here coming out of the ground. And this is a secret to getting a lot of elderberry plants. It may seem counterintuitive, but you want to cut them back and you want to actually mow them. That's what I did. I didn't even know there were elderberry plants here in this little area here. I just mowed last year several times, bush hogged it, and I wasn't really paying attention. And lo and behold, there are elderberries here. And by mowing them, that just encouraged the plants to go underground and to spread out and to have all of these starts coming up. So it may seem counterintuitive to cut these plants back and mow them back, but they really do thrive that way. Actually, a lot of times, to get a good harvest, even every few years, you should cut your elderberry plants back significantly. And then the next year, they're gonna have some starts coming up, and you'll get a nice harvest in a year or two. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Again, where some of these are growing is not the best because this is our horse pasture. I have a side slope that I'm planting my elderberry slowly over time. Some of the elderberries I showed you, I'm transplanting. I'm also using them along our creek bed that goes along our driveway for erosion control. You can use the flowers, you can use the berries. There's just a lot of uses for this plant. If you don't have it on your homestead, I would start looking for it. I think it's gonna be the next big thing, people. Actually, it's already here, just people need to know more about the elderberry. I hope this video has been helpful. If you like it, subscribe, comment, just tell me what you think about elderberries. This is a native plant where I live in Western North Carolina. It's native to about half of America. It's a great plant to have, especially if you enjoy natives. If you have elderberry, just let me know below how your harvest is going and what other native plants you're helping thrive on your property.